Welcome to IT Hour on KMET 1490.
Hello and welcome to IT Hour, a new show where we focus on best practices for a better IT experience. We're so glad to be back on KMET 1490. You know, the show is focused on business leaders and folks that are responsible for information technology, but it also extends to anyone who's interested in better IT. So today we're going to get going to some topics, but first I want to give a huge shout out to our sound engineer, Curtis. Thank you so much, Curtis, and the rest of our staff here. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Bruce. And let's get going. Today we have Victor Alamaraz. Victor is an entrepreneur, a solar consultant, and is just engaged all around with IT. So he's going to join us today for our discussion on some popular topics. Welcome, Victor. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with IT.
Sure. Thanks for having me on today, Brad. I appreciate the opportunity and love what you guys do here at Computer Options as well. The way you serve the community is fantastic. So my experience with IT currently is primarily in the solar industry, residential solar. So I design systems, solar systems that are custom fit for homeowners, and also previously in sales environments and consulting, I have been working with IT without sometimes even realizing that IT was a thing, just as a way of contact management, communications, extracting thoughts and ideas, customizing those thoughts and ideas for whatever application I was working with, the project that I was coordinating at that time. So yeah, I've been kind of interacting with technology in a very comfortable way.
So Victor, how do you know if your information technology responsibilities are being taken care of?
Yeah, so most of my interaction with the technology has been at the user interface level, like just as extracting data, engaging with it, customizing the data for whatever project it is that I'm customizing. And so I don't know that I've ever really concerned myself necessarily with what's happening underneath all of that. So I may have vulnerabilities that I don't even know about.
Very well said. Yeah, thank you. So, you know, I think today we're going to discuss some IT topics that sound like they're really relevant to you and some of our listeners. Let's start with discussing backup in the cloud. So, does your data reside in the cloud?
So I believe that it does. Sometimes I'll get a prompting that says I need to update my cloud and my data, expand my database or my data retention. So yeah, I think so.
And what about your email?
Primarily Gmail. I do have some email that comes through my Mac as well. So as far as security goes and those kinds of things, I don't generally think about that so much. Just kind of send and receive information and trust the process, I guess. So, you know, one of the misnomers about
G Suite and Microsoft 365, which are the two most popular business mail platforms, is that you're safe and backed up once you have your mail in those platforms. So when we go back conventionally, a lot of businesses had their mail in Microsoft Exchange Server, and a lot of organizations still do. And so that's not in the cloud. And with Exchange Server, you probably had some sort of legacy backup system. So when you move to the cloud, you no longer have that backup to count on. And so you do need some sort of third-party backup. And so that's a very common misnomer, is that once I move to the cloud, I'm backed up. And the fact is you only have a standard 30-day retention with Microsoft 365 or with G Suite, and once you delete it, it's gone. And so if you're in healthcare, if you're in the legal industry, you have compliance issues when you don't have backup in those types of cloud platforms. So that's a big one for cloud.
So for myself, and our listeners may be interested as well, is say I'm working with a database to drive business. Each client is at a different phase of development in their particular project, if something happens in the cloud, my sense is that I'd be able to go back eventually and retrieve all of that data. Are you saying that's not necessarily the case?
So that's a great question. And so if the database is in 365, the answer is yes, you do need backup. And no, it may be at risk. If the database is in a software as a service type solution, it may have backup with it. But I think the greater takeaway here is don't make the assumption that because your data is in a cloud platform, like a software as a solution type platform or email, that it is backed up, that box has got to be checked and examined.
Is that an assessment that you and your team would make?
Absolutely, yeah. During any onboarding, that's something we're always going to evaluate. But your managed service provider is going to address those things, and they're going to be reporting those successful backups to you on a regular basis, or they should be, and so should your internal IT team.
So as a sales team, we have the ability then to retain that information, manage that information, implement our strategic deployment with that information without any interruption that might be going on in a cloud format or template.
Right.
Excellent.
So Victor, speaking of cloud platforms, let's segue here to security on cloud platforms. This is another best practice item that really not only affects business users, but this affects everyday users and anyone that is using common services on the internet. And so let's talk about how you can avoid being hacked, or how you can mitigate against your risk of being hacked. And so let's talk about what are these cloud platforms that we're talking about. Tell me what cloud platforms you use on a regular basis. Or let me list some of these popular ones and tell me what you use here. So Facebook, Pinterest, Amazon, Snapchat, WhatsApp, YouTube, and then from the mail category, Gmail, AOL Mail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail. Did any of those sound familiar to you?
Yeah, certainly Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, and Gmail are in my sweet spot. I didn't even consider the fact that those are all cloud platforms. So there may be other people listening today as well that are on cloud platforms and putting very personal information onto their cloud platform without even realizing potentially how vulnerable or accessible that information is.
That's a great point. And your kids are probably using Snapchat and WhatsApp and those types of things. Have you ever been on Facebook and you've seen someone go, hey, ignore that message, my Facebook account got hacked and I got to change my password, but it's me now, don't accept a friend request?
Just saw one the other day.
Yeah, or have you ever received an email from somebody on Gmail or Hotmail or something that says, ignore an email that you might have got from me, my account got hacked and now it's back to me, I'm in control of it, I've changed my password?
Yeah, so my first thought is usually, so I'm going to ignore the email that says ignore the email?
No, yeah, right. Yeah, because you're kind of wondering, right? So what happens is, your account got compromised. You've got to go back and change your password because your password got hacked. So what can we do to avoid those types of things? And what you need to do is turn on what's called multi-factor authentication. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Okay, so multi-factor authentication is used to ensure that digital users who are who they say they are by requiring that they provide at least two pieces of evidence to prove their identity. And what that means in the case of these different cloud platforms that we've discussed is that they provide a password and also a unique 6-digit code. And you can get that 6-digit code from your mobile device. And you set up an application called Google Authenticator. You download that app right from the Play Store or the Apple Store, and you go into the security settings or the profile settings of any of these online applications, and you can set that up. This is a must in today's day and age for any cloud platforms that multi-factor authentication is enabled. And what this means is if your password is compromised, if I guess your password without that 6-digit code from your mobile phone, I can't get into your account. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So for myself and maybe some listeners today as well, people may have 200 followers or 200 subscribers or 200 people that they associate with on a Facebook or on a WhatsApp, on a YouTube channel, those kinds of things. At what point is a person using technology either too small or too big for the kind of multi-factor authentication that you're talking about? So I guess the reason I ask that question is I've got friends who that are making now really ridiculous amounts of money as a YouTuber or as a podcaster. And I've also got friends that just have a couple hundred people on their Facebook. Like, where is the balance in using that kind of authentication?
Well, that's an interesting question. And the answer is everybody that's got an account needs to protect it. I mean, all the more if you've got a more following and it's more valuable to you. But everybody that wants to keep from compromise has got to use multi-factor or two-factor authentication in order to protect themselves from a breach of these accounts. And so like with Amazon, lots of businesses use Amazon to do purchasing. They need to use that multi-factor authentication. Now, one of the things that's nice, like with common apps like Amazon and Facebook, is they've got a little checkbox that says suppress this notification for 30 days while using this browser. That way, if you're at your home browser or if you're at your work office browser, it doesn't ask you for the 6-digit code over and over again. And that way, someone's got to break into your office or your home, which provides that same multi-factor authentication in order to get to it, and then it saves some time. But yeah, it's incredibly important that multi-factor authentication is set up on every single thing that you're using regularly to protect your identity, to keep people from masking a raid around as you, to keep them from accessing your financial information, to keep them from purchasing as you. Very, very important. Probably the most important tip of the day that we're going to discuss.
Fantastic. So is that the kind of thing that I should be trying to figure out and sort out for the different social media platforms that I'm on? Or as an entrepreneur, as I continue to build business and broaden and deepen my client base and establish deeper relationships with more detailed information, do I reach out to you, Brad, to help me set that up? Or at what point does a decision maker, a business executive, an entrepreneur reach out to Computer Options to say, hey, we're getting big here, help?
Great question. So first of all, yes, you should be checking with your managed service provider, your internal IT team, whatever contacts you have, and make sure, hey, double check. Do I have multi-factor authentication set up with all of my cloud interactions, with all of my cloud platforms? If not, how do we get that going? But they should be reporting back to you that we have these things in all of their regular reports. You as an individual, I would just make a list of everything that you're in and go ahead and check them and make sure that they're set up. You should be able to reach out to your service provider or your internal IT people. They can help you set it up. You can definitely reach out to us and we can help you set it up. We've really have a love affair with these platforms. I mean, it's kind of like drugs, between user functionality, patronizing the ads, and the stock growth. We just can't get away from them. So we've got to protect ourselves against them.
I was talking to somebody yesterday that set himself up with an account, made an investment, ended up making $72,000 on his investment. Wow. He said he's never made a one-time transaction that netted that kind of a gain financially for himself, and he's in the stock market. He wants to go play with that money all day long. So it sounds like he would be a good candidate for somebody that needs to set up the kind of security that you're referring to.
Yes, that's true. And I'm so glad you said that, because when we come back from these messages, we're going to be talking about trading platforms and online banking and some of the things that can go a little scary there too. So I'm really glad that you said that.
Excellent. So let me ask you, Brad, the one of the apps, is it okay to mention specific apps?
Sure.
That people use?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my friends is using Robinhood. Mm-hmm. And so in exchanging money and currency through that application, I don't know if it's the same kind of security that somebody that does Bitcoin, or somebody that has a podcast that's getting money directly deposited into their accounts. So is that the kind of thing that we're also going to be looking at?
It is. And so, one of the things right off the bat with Robinhood or whatever brokerage platform you're on, we're definitely going to want to have multi-factor authentication set up. Well, Victor, when we come back, I see our engineer here giving us a sign we're running out of time, but we're going to talk more about multi-factor authentication, and we're going to touch on crypto and stock trading platforms. So after these messages, we'll be right back.
So you're a business owner. You might be a doctor's office or a bakery, or maybe you're a financial advisor. And no matter what your core business is, there's no denying that technology plays an important role in your daily operations. Unfortunately, as we've grown more dependent on modern technologies and systems, IT failures are starting to directly impact our ability to do business, in some cases with catastrophic consequences. Think about it. What happens when a server crashes at your office or your entire network fails? Your first step likely includes a phone call to a tech support line, where you'll troubleshoot a few things to try to determine the cause of the problem. If that doesn't help, you'll need to get a technician to come on site and try to fix things. And what happens while you're waiting? Your business suffers. The doctor's office can't access patient records, the bakery can't process inventory, and the financial advisor can't input customer data. So while you might think of technology as being secondary to your core business, the reality is that without it, many companies would find themselves at a complete standstill. And as we all know, time is money. That's where our fully managed approach to IT can help. With proactive remote monitoring and management, we're able to keep tabs on your IT infrastructure 24/7, 365 days a year. And when a problem does arise, our technical experts can quickly resolve it, in many cases before you're even aware that there was a problem at all. For an affordable fee, we'll provide the monitoring, technical support, and full problem resolution you need to stay productive. If you want peace of mind, call California Computer Options at 800-804-1-MSP.
Are you ready to drive your business on a trusted path to growth? Lisa Rios, CEO, and the team of coaches at the LDI Group are ready to help you succeed. An organizational leadership consulting firm, the LDI Group works collaboratively with leaders who seek stronger growth, alignment, and execution in their businesses. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a corporate leader, or a decision maker in a family-owned business, your challenges are unique. The LDI Group team has diverse business knowledge and real-world leadership experience. Their expertise includes change management, conflict resolution, group dynamics, and building strong organizational cultures in all sectors and business sizes. The LDI Group consultants understand what it takes to professionalize your business and position it for ongoing success. And if you're ready to learn, they can show you the path upward. The LDI Group also offers the fully customized Leadership Alignment Breakthrough Workshop Series. This experiential training is provided on site so your team can work through challenges or opportunities specific to your organization to achieve better results. Drive your business on a trusted path to growth. Get started today. Call Lisa Rios and the LDI Group at 888-480-7534 or visit theldigroup.com/radio. That's 888-480-7534.
We're back at IT Hour with Victor Alamaraz. And Victor, we were just discussing security on cloud platforms and what all the important reasons for using multi-factor authentication. And just a reminder to our users what multi-factor authentication is. And so using that Google Authenticator and having that additional 6-digit code required in addition to your password on platforms like Facebook, Pinterest, Amazon, Snapchat, WhatsApp, YouTube, Gmail, AOL Mail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, and that provides an additional layer of security so you're not hacked. You don't get those surprise things where your account's been taken over and you get those embarrassing posts or emails sent out. This is a great step that every user and every managed service provider or IT support should be doing on your behalf. Or if you're an individual user, that you should have in place with these platforms is having multi-factor authentication enabled. And so I'm glad we were able to discuss that. And you mentioned that your friend or yourself is doing some crypto trading or stock trading.
Yeah, I have some friends that have been into that, and some that are making some significant amount of money, not only with the trading but also with the podcast. And so it's kind of new wealth, if you will. So it seems like if a user, somebody that's interfacing with technology, is able to set up securities on the front end of their experience, that they might be ready or prepared for that later. So what's the right time to kind of launch into that?
Yeah, great concern there. I would definitely not put my money in any online platform without having multi-factor authentication set up. And I want to go a step further on that. So you mentioned, I think, Robinhood, but we've got Charles Schwab, we've got Ameritrade, we've got Webull, and the list just goes on and on. It feels like there's a new online brokerage platform for day trading, for stock trading, or for crypto just about every week. And I know our audience and our listeners are really interested in that, in this space, because face it, I mean, Americans every day now trade at home. And so this is very important. I'd like to share a story with you, Victor. And this goes back about 10 years. I was trading stocks on Schwab's online platform. And one morning, I logged in like normal. It was maybe a weekly check. And I had an additional $250,000 added to my balance.
Outstanding.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought, right? And so I want to talk about a couple things here.
Sure.
First of all, what do you do? That gives you kind of an uneasy feeling, obviously, because what if it was 250 missing?
Was your first thought to go to the bank and make a withdrawal immediately?
I can't remember. This was a long time ago, but I'm sure I had a lot of thoughts flooding through my head at the time.
Okay.
And and I think 10 years. It was at least 10 years ago. So multi-factor authentication didn't exist, or at least in its a form now. Yes, they did have more manual callback things. So I knew I had some layers of security, but I didn't know all of what I had.
So that security has come a long way.
The security has come a long way.
Okay.
There was a lot of manual, call here, call there, fax this, that type of thing. But I guess one of the first things I thought is, boy, if 250,000 can be added, what could be taken away?
Sure.
And I don't even think I had that much in there. So I knew it wasn't a mistake on my part. I knew I didn't accidentally add 250,000, so I obviously realized it was a mistake.
So was there a consideration that possibly one of your trades had done really well, or was it, was that even a factor?
No,
Okay.
It was clear to me that this was an error.
Okay.
So, there has been several recent articles and news stories about people getting deposits or getting money that wasn't theirs. They have taken the money, they've gone out and bought fancy things, and then there's been court cases. It doesn't work. In the end, the bottom line is you've got to give it back. The best thing to do is report it. But my story doesn't really stop there.
Sure.
Okay. By the way, how that played out was I reported it to my investment manager. She reported it to the bank. Believe it or not, it took them 3 weeks to get the money back.
So what happened to the money during that 3 weeks?
It just sat there. And I believe, and it was invested, I believe they probably took the interest back. I don't know, I don't remember. But more recently, and I'll say this past year, I'm not going to say the name of the bank to spare them the embarrassment, but I will say it was not in California. It was not a California bank. We recently logged in to our online platform and found an additional $5 million deposit
Into your account?
into one of our business accounts. And so same type of scenario, report it back, and then they were able to take care of this one a little quicker. But again, you kind of wonder, is someone missing $5 million?
So there's not a way of acquiring or hitting a certain number of 5-star Yelp reviews that would generate that kind of money?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But again, as a banking user or an online platform user, you just kind of have to question the trust there. Was someone missing $5 million for 2 days while we had the $5 million? Was someone missing the $250,000? Who was on the other side of that transaction? And they clearly probably were more panicked than me.
Sure.
Because the worst case scenario for me was they're going to take the $5 million back, which wasn't even the worst case scenario. It was the best case scenario because I didn't want my accounting statements messed up for too long.
Sure.
But I would hate to be on the other side of that if I needed the $5 million to complete an escrow transaction, something like that. So
what'd you do?
Well, in that case, again, we reported it. They took it back, but it did show up on the statements and everything. And, I for the history of that company, will have to make a note to whatever auditor or whatever why $5 million came in and $5 million came out. And so I am going to get to some best practices and some points here in a minute.
Good.
Most recently, this week, in a very popular crypto platform, I don't want to say the name, but if I said the name, you would know what it is. One of the mornings, I woke up, checked my crypto positions like I normally do. The crypto positions were roughly the same, but I had an additional $49,000 of cash. Well, what was interesting about this one that was fundamentally different than the other two was there was no deposit trace. There was nothing in the logs. I mean, it literally just appeared there with no trace. And so
Is there a law of attraction book that you're reading and practicing that's causing these deposits?
I don't know. But there's the first takeaway from this is that banking institutions make a lot of mistakes. It just happens. And sometimes, they could be misplaced wires. They can be keying transactions. Now, we did go back and find that the $5 million error was a keying error. They were trying to wire a different amount of money, and they keyed in some extra digits.
Interesting.
So they can be keying errors, they can be wiring errors, they can be computer errors, they can be lots of different things. It can debit money from your account, it can credit money to your account. So here are some of the takeaways of what you can do as the end user to protect yourself.
I was hoping you would share that.
Number one, we want to come back to multi-factor authentication. It's the very first thing that you can do to protect yourself. But with online banking, online stock brokerage relationships, and online crypto, you want to make sure and download all of your statements and all of your reports. Download those PDFs and make sure and save those locally. That way you got a copy of those before they change. Now, with new online crypto and online brokerages popping up out of nowhere all the time, get screenshots. So to take my last example, there was money credited, but it didn't show up in any of the deposit transaction logs. It didn't show up in any logs anywhere else, but balances were affected. So that's where even getting my reports or downloading my reports didn't show it. And I need to know, especially if I was on the other side of that where 49,000 had disappeared, I need screenshots. And so I think that screenshots are incredibly important. And then memorializing communications back through their portal back to them and letting them know exactly what happened with timestamps.
Does multi-factor authentication become more complex as a person's financials go broader and deeper? So somebody who has, say, a checking and a savings account, sounds like from what you're saying that person should be doing multi-factor authentication for their own personal checking account. But then when you add financial complexity, when you add that into the equation, a company gets broader, dealing with payroll issues, deposits, withdrawals, money coming in, cryptocurrency, those kinds of things. Does the process of multi-factor authentication become more complex for the individual?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that. So multi-factor authentication is going to be done per login, per platform, one time, and then you're in. Doesn't matter if you've got $5 or $50 million. Great question. Great question. I'm glad you're clarifying that.
Okay.
So let's get back to the takeaways.
Sure.
Multi-factor authentication, download all reports, download all statements, and take screenshots. And this is just CYA best practices because, at the moment, especially with crypto, this is kind of the Wild West.
Was there anything else you wanted to loop back around on the back end of the Schwab experience and the $5 million and the $49,000 that were transferred into your account? Any more light you wanted to shine on this?
Yeah, I guess for everybody, don't be surprised. We see these stories in the news. I've got two other small stories that relate to that. I made a deposit at a local bank, and when I got my deposit receipt, as I walked away, there was a zero missing. So this doesn't just happen in online banking. You've got to verify. That's why it's important to check those reports. It's important to even check it when you're doing in-person banking. And so had I walked away and not saw that missing zero, well, it would have been a little harder to go back and deal with it had I not dealt with it right there in person. So same principle applies.
So when it comes to the topic of security, obviously we want to protect against hackers, people coming in from the outside, if you will, even digitally, and coming into our safe areas financially, those areas that we consider secure. And we talked about the multi-factor authentication as well. So what about on the financial side that you were referring to of money coming into the equation? Is that a different type of security? Does a person have some kind of liability when money just magically appears into an account? So how did that work out for you? What do you do?
Well, that's an interesting question. The best thing that you can do, again, is going back to keeping an eye on those accounts. Don't leave any of your accounts dormant without watching them on a regular basis. You either ought to have a financial direct report keeping an eye on them, and then downloading those reports on a regular basis, getting the screenshots when you don't have the reporting activity getting captured, and checking in with those. And aside from that, making sure that you really know the difference between ACH transfers, wire transfers, and the different ways and the timing of getting money in and out. So Engineer has just said that we are about running out of time, but let's pick up on this and our next topic of top common IT business problems, and right after these messages.
Sounds good, Brett. Thanks.
Contacts, calls, chat, and meetings with ScreenShare, all accessible in one place. Now it's easy to work anywhere on any device with no friction. Brilliant! The smoothest communication and epic collaboration in one simple, unified tool. Save time, reduce costs, toss the fragmented tools, grow faster, get happier. Work instantly improves when communication and collaboration happens in one tool. Make calls, read voicemail, chat, have video meetings, and more, all on your browser. And all of this is instantly available with zero setup or configuration. It's business done better and the productivity solution you need. Talk to us today to learn what our proven UC solutions can offer your business. If you want peace of mind, call Telecommunication Solutions from California Computer Options at 800-804-1-MSP.
As a business owner, executive, or CEO, you know some answers just can't be found on Google. And when you need to brainstorm a business challenge, no one understands like other business leaders who have faced and overcome similar challenges. That's why so many successful leaders join the peer advisory groups led by Vistage Chair Lisa Rios, CEO of LDI Group. Vistage is the world's largest CEO coaching and peer advisory organization for leaders of small and mid-sized businesses. Vistage member companies grew 2.2 times faster than comparable U.S. businesses, according to a 2017 analysis of Dun & Bradstreet data. Many leaders who work with Lisa Rios and her peer advisory groups have earned even higher levels of success. That's why Lisa's been ranked in the top 5% of high-performing Vistage chairs. Her designations include Vistage International Chair, Master Chair, and Chair Excellence Awards recipient. Join Vistage and you'll become part of a powerful global community of executives who inspire each other and share their perspectives to help each other make better decisions and achieve better results. Take your success to a new level. To learn more about working with Lisa Rios and Vistage, call LDI Group at 888-480-7534. That's 888-480-7534. Or visit Vistage.com.
And we're back at IT Hour with Victor Alamaraz. And Victor, well, we've covered a lot of stuff here in the first two segments. We have covered everything from multi-factor authentication, security on cloud platforms, to backup in the cloud. I mean, we've kind of gone the full gamut. Have I confused you, or are you online? What do you want to talk about here, Victor?
Yeah, something I saw on your website was managed services, and it's something that you referred to earlier as well. So I just took a kind of a quick look at Wikipedia and to see what it says is the practice of outsourcing the responsibility for maintaining and anticipating the need for a range of processes and functions in order to improve operations and cut expenses. Obviously, that's a principle, business principle. It's a practice as well. But I just wonder, how does California Computer Options distinguish itself from other providers?
Great question. You know, a managed services firm is one that bundles all of the essential IT services from security and account management to help desk into a flat monthly fee, which easily scales up or down as you grow or contract. I mean, it's essentially your IT department on tap, and it takes all of that responsibility of entering into multiple software contracts, hiring IT personnel, managing all of that and having the responsibility of response to your users, figuring out all of the strategic objectives, and it puts all of that responsibility into a provider that takes everything and is accountable to you and is transparent to you if they are a quality provider. And so I think what sets California Computer Options apart is California Computer Options is able to deliver those services from 2 to 1,000 users with the same quality. Excellent. And those 2 users are able to get the enterprise solutions and everything scaled down at a reasonable rate.
Fantastic. I know some businesses in the last 12 to 14 months have experienced tremendous growth. There's been some kind of shocks to the system, if you will. So if there's a business development mindset, an entrepreneur out there listening that is experiencing some of that growth, at what point should they begin to reach out for help and support?
Excellent point. And really, as soon as your business is on point for growth, I mean, as soon as you can, you really need to engage with a provider. Generally, that's going to come along before that you're going to seek internal resources. So as soon as you can engage a provider, you really need to be able to be concentrating on your business's strategic objectives and not be focusing on IT. And that's what's going to allow you to really accelerate your growth.
It seems like businesses that have succeeded and even thrived in today's marketplace have done so by performing at high levels in whatever niche market they tap or that they're into. What it sounds like is that you provide that entrepreneur to move in their giftedness, if you will, to be able to operate at their optimal level, doing what they do without having to worry about the systems operating correctly.
Well, I'll even take it one step beyond there. Yes, you're correct with that. But beyond IT not being a headache, that's the objective. IT should not be a headache, but IT should really, in today's day and age, should be looked at as a revenue source and not just a cost item or an expense item. So IT should have a place at the table to be looked at for a lot of new opportunities. There's going to be a lot of new revenue sources in every business that can't be done without the IT component.
And it sounds like so we go beyond just managing a database and having cloud security and communications coming in and going out from a company. You also have cross communication between different aspects or dimensions of the company as well. So if operations is communicating effectively with the sales team, who's communicating effectively with the administrative staff, that cross communication that then flows down to the customer level as well, those seem to be the kinds of things that you're able to effectively implement.
Well, yeah, the layered security approach is 100% necessary to keep all of those inflows and outflows safely going.
Yeah, because the revenue, so for instance, in the solar business, when I'm with a homeowner, I design a system, create a system, gain approval through the bank or a cash purchase or a lease, whatever the scenario may be that's customizable for the homeowner, that initiates a series of responses from our internal teams as well. So I'm sure you've had some success with some solar companies and some other companies that have looked to you as a solution to keep communication flowing.
Yeah, so, communication, lots of times we're talking about instant chat, we're talking about video conferencing, so we're talking about Microsoft Teams, we're talking about Microsoft 365, we're talking about G Suite, we're talking about email generally. So those are the platforms that your managed service provider, your internal IT resources are going to be responsible for keeping safe. And there's multiple layers of security that are integral to that.
Sometimes there are, and I've been in this place as a consultant, sometimes there are leadership management decision makers that may not necessarily see the value of spending money on another resource or another outsource, where because I'm involved on a practical level, interacting with the customers, getting projects to the finish line and getting them complete, certainly having some internal support would be a benefit. Should a consultant, somebody at a consultant or sales position, outside sales, inside sales, support staff, how would they kind of frame up the conversation with the decision makers at a company to say, hey, these guys might be a good resource for us?
Well, I think at some point, if you can't do your job effectively and IT standing in the way, you've got to frame that conversation with your supervisor or whoever's responsible with IT. And, sometimes it's hard to inject what the solution is because you don't know all the politics that are going on there. But you definitely have to bring it to the forefront and say, look, I can't do my job until IT is fixed. Yes, you can recommend, hey, a managed service provider I know is a good solution. I heard it on the radio. But a managed service provider definitely is a great outsourced solution, or some internal IT resources, something to help you get your job done. But yeah, you need a professional.
Somebody really smart said that growth and complacency can't occupy the same space.
Very well said. Very well said. So, we've got another topic here, and we're running out of time. But and because we're running out of time, we had kind of a top 10 list. Like, do you remember Letterman's Countdown?
I do.
Yeah, when he used to do the top 10.
Would he throw the cards?
Yeah, I think he threw the cards.
I think he would got really good at it.
Yeah,
he could hit a cameraman from 15 yards away.
Yeah, I remember that. So I did a Letterman's top 10 countdown for us, top 10 list.
I was hoping you'd have something strong.
Yeah, well, so here's what
you've been strong the whole time, but I was hoping that we would just finish with. Man, something.
So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to take the top one.
Oh, wow.
Let's just do the top one.
It's that good.
It's that good. So, we process lots and lots, thousands of tickets. And when we look at that in aggregate, I asked for some data, and I wanted to focus on what is the number one issue that affects end users and businesses. And I want to talk about that topic. And I don't know if it'll be a shocker. It's not a shocker to me. But you know what the number one issue is? I think we need a drum roll. Can you do a drum roll? There we go.
I think something good is about to happen right now.
Well, it's not really a shocker, but it's the internet. Internet bandwidth. Plain old slow internet. That is the number one issue that ends up affecting end users, businesses, loss of productivity. And what happens is so many problems manifest themselves in different ways that come from slow internet. And applications not performing, especially when you've got cloud style applications and you've got updates being pushed out, then all of a sudden bottlenecks the limited bandwidth that you've already got. You've got one user stealing bandwidth from another. You've got all of these different things that are manifesting themselves and looking as one type of problem, but they're really being caused because you don't have adequate bandwidth.
I get the sense that you have a solution for us, Brad.
Well, yeah, get faster internet. However, it does get a little more complicated than that. So one of the things that's really interesting is lots of people in their houses have really fast internet. Lots of people in their businesses have really slow internet. And so there's a reason for that. So internet companies generally build out for density. So if you're going to go to a block that's got 500 apartments, it really makes a lot of sense to build your connectivity to that. If you're going to go to the block, one block over, and there's only one business, you only get one subscriber versus 500 subscribers. So financially, it makes sense for Verizon to build out their fiber over here and leave the business on slow DSL. That is the landscape that a lot of us business owners face in not getting, we're sitting here with 20 megabits over 20 megabits with 100 employees, and we're trying to run our entire business on 20 megabit symmetric connection. And some apartment user over here right across the street's got 500 megabits symmetric, Netflix all day long, streaming all their music and everything else. Why is that?
Seems disproportionate.
It does. So what does the business have to do? They've got to buy some big expensive fiber, pay for the fiber build out, and get expensive things. So the first takeaway here is everybody that's responsible for IT in their business or their organization should know what bandwidth, what type of internet connection they have, what's available right now, and what's coming. And so if you are looking at new connectivity right now, you should not be signing a contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5+ years in advance unless you know exactly what's being built out and what your options are in order to make an educated decision for your organization. Especially some of these contracts can be very, very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars as you go out several years. So it's important that you're not paying a whole bunch of money for a very expensive fiber circuit that may be commoditized by something else that's coming into your neighborhood.
So if there's a growing business that's opening new aspects of their company, their organization, and they don't know how to figure that out, is that something that you do?
Absolutely. First of all, your managed service provider, when it's outsourced, they're completely responsible for vetting those solutions, discovering those solutions, presenting those solutions, and managing those solutions, and advising you on all of that stuff.
Do you build their internal systems around what's available and what's accessible through internet speed and width?
Yeah, so all of that infrastructure, router, firewall, all of that stuff is spec'd out around your connectivity speeds.
So you're not going to put me in a Ferrari to drive around in a parking lot?
No. Great analogy. And I can't believe it. We're already running short on time. So, boy, that really came quick. So, we know that a lot of folks still don't have adequate IT support. Like you mentioned, you've got a managed service provider, you've got internal IT support, but maybe they're not doing all the things that we're talking about. Okay. You can always reach us on Discord. You can email us at ithour@computeroptions.net. You can reach us at 888-804-1MSP. And we will see you in a week. Here's wishing you best practices for a better IT experience.
Hi, are you ready to join a well-established managed IT service company? California Computer Options in Redland, California is currently seeking full-time remote work for Level 1 technical consultants and small to medium-sized business network operations center engineer, Windows Systems Administrator. Please contact us at California Computer Options 909-793-6338 and ask for Edward Lugo.